What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 7 of Overthinking Media. I'm your host, Michael, joined by Harry.
Yep.
John.
Yep.
And our second guest, Ben.
Hello.
So, Ben is John's brother. We've asked Ben to come on because V for Vendetta, which is our film discussion this week, is one of his favourite films. So, in this week's main topic, we'll be discussing our top male characters in TV, film, games, books, whatever you like. So, John, you want to start us off?
Okay. Favourite character, and it goes over several platforms. Joker.
Oh.
How do you feel about the Joker being portrayed in the TV series?
Which TV series?
I haven't watched Gotham. If
is
I'm
it Gotham?
completely honest.
Because aren't they giving him an Origins?
Origins.
Yeah.
You mean Origins?
Yeah, I say it really weird, like an American.
My
like
favourite
tomato.
This is my favourite.
Origins.
This is my favourite character over loads of platforms. Oh, what do you think of him in this? I haven't seen it.
No.
Thanks, John.
Go on, put the case forward, John.
You've got Mark Hamill's Joker, the best Joker.
Yeah.
Right, that's one. Joker, yes.
Yeah, you've got Heath Ledger's,
Yes.
and then you've got Jack Nicholson's, and I just love all those Jokers. And then you've got Jared Leto's, which...
Why?
Why Jared Leto? I think he would have been good if he got the screen time that he actually filmed.
So what was wrong? So then, what was wrong with him? Like, what was wrong with the character? Was it just that you didn't see enough of him to
I
like
don't
him?
think you got enough to get a good perspective of the character. Essentially, if you have a Joker in a film, the Joker should be the main villain, not a side character.
So you didn't like the fact that he was a side character?
I don't know, because if they'd done the DC animated film, which is Assault on Arkham, which basically had
That's a Suicide Squad film.
Suicide Squad going into Arkham to get something out of Arkham, and it may have been information from the Joker in regards to a bomb. If they'd done that as a film, that would have been great because it had Batman in there, it had Suicide Squad characters in there, and it had Joker as the main antagonist. But Joker's just great because he doesn't care, and now they've merged Joker and Batman together in a new character in the comics called the Batman Who Laughs. Yeah, is that right? Yeah.
That's from the Dark Universe, isn't
The
it?
Dark Universe, and he's now coming to, and he's that scary because he's Batman with no ambition, not ambitions, no, inhibition, like the Joker. The Joker's even scared of him because it's like a Batman doesn't want to be anywhere a Batman doesn't, and this guy is being held in a prison specifically designed to hold him. And then all of a sudden, as soon as Lex Luthor's interviewing him, he spits a bit of this metal at Lex Luthor, and it's like, how did you even get that in here? And he's like, just like starts laughing, and Joker goes, "I hate that sound." It's like,
It does sound good.
that laughing Batman is terrifying.
Yeah, that comic sounds really good. Yeah, that comic does sound really cool.
It does.
You showed me the book, didn't you? You showed me the artwork.
I've shown you the introduction of the Batman Who Laughs. There is a sub-comic which is how the Batman Who Laughs came to be, which is
So
very, very dark. But Joker's just great, and especially the Mark Hamill one.
Well, you know,
I think we all grew up on the Mark Hamill Joker.
what I was saying to you about the TV series, the DC, aren't they trying to give him like a backstory? And isn't that the whole point of Joker? He's not supposed to have a backstory.
Well, Joker has a backstory.
But no, I mean how he became Joker.
I'm with you on this one, Mike. I think, for me, Joker is a good character because he's kind of an enigma. You don't really know much about him. He's a sort of counter-lever to Batman. So Batman's order. He's about restoring order.
And he's chaos, isn't he?
And Joker's chaos, and I like how in Batman Returns. Batman's been away for a while. He's a race driver. Bruce Wayne.
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight. That's
Yeah.
Dark Knight Returns.
That's-
And and you know, he puts on the cape again, he goes out, he's this old guy, he's probably in his 50s at that point, and you see, cuts to Joker in Arkham, and he's very sedate, he's just bored, he's got a very dull look on his face. He sees Batman on the screen, and the smile starts spreading, he's like, where have you been, darling? I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, it is like a yin and yang of each other.
That whole comic panel is just amazing, and you just hear the grin, and then him going on TV, and then he puts the lipstick on.
Did you just say you just hear the grin?
No, you see the grin.
Right. Okay.
But then it's a similar thing in the Killing Joke. He's at the very end where there's the puddle in the middle with the light going through, and Joker tells a joke about, you know, there's two madmen trying to escape, and you know, and he talks. I don't want to do the joke and ruin the kind of page and the spoiler sort of thing. But that pane, it's like 2 pages across, and it's just a thin line, this white line that stands between Batman and Joker, and it's always people kind of assume that Batman kills him. Because there's this manic laughter, and he's kind of leaning across, and he's crossed the line.
I need to read that.
But it's a stunning,
It's a film as well, isn't it?
They have turned it into an animated.
It's an animated film, but the Killing Joke comic graphic novel, it's quite a short one. So to turn it into a film, they padded out the beginning with. I don't want to really ruin it, but what they pad it out with is a bit weird, uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It involves 2 characters hooking up who I don't ever recall ever hooking up in any form of DC canon whatsoever.
But they just did it because...
Any form of mainstream DC canon that most people know. And it's a bit... It comes from nowhere a little bit, but, you know, once it's done, it's forgotten.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sidestep in terms of the character arc.
Yeah.
So, definitely I'd agree.
Joker's definitely best... Not best. One of my favourite male characters,
Cool.
Ben on the table, Ben?
Well, I had a lot of notice for this topic. I think I'll go with the one that was kind of the gut instinct, and when you said favourite male character, I think it's Gandalf for me.
Lord of the Rings.
I think when you're talking about male character, what do you think, you know, in this modern world about what men should be and whatnot? Like wise, careful. He's never boastful about his power. Very relaxed, controls, manipulates things, but from behind the scenes. And I just think the emotional connection I had with Gandalf from a very, very early age. You know, Dad read us The Hobbit, and Gandalf is this towering figure in that book, and then he disappears, but then he arrives at the perfect time and kills loads of orcs or goblins when they're in the caves, and he guides them all the way through, and he's just this sort of magical presence. And then as you get older, well, certainly as I got older and then read, Lord of the Rings at the age of 14 to 14.
Bloody hell.
I don't
think I could even read it at 32.
Well, they are hard books to read.
But because I watched the first film. When the first film came out, Dad was always like, you've got to read the book before you watch the film. And I was like, nah. All right. And so I went to watch the film, and I was like, I've got to know what happens. And so... inevitably, I was devastated, absolutely crushed when Gandalf seemingly dies.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things where it was so satisfying that he had died in a way, because it showed you what the stakes were and how important it was.
And his transition as well.
And then the transition is handled well. It's not just gimmicky like in comics now. Oh, they're just going to bring Batman back. Oh, they kill this character and now they just bring him back. Like there was a very specific purpose they brought Gandalf back, and the changes that they made.
What was that purpose? I know, but tell me.
It's to show the kind of the transition of Gandalf from Gandalf the Grey. He kind of is this murky figure. He's not. His position in Middle Earth is kind of without getting all like super nerdy about it. In the Silmarillion, you see, he's got different names. Mithrandir.
It's one of the 5 wizards, isn't he, that comes to Middle Earth?
One of the 5 wizards, the Valar.
Yeah.
And so he's almost, you'd say, like sort of an angel, really, in the kind of pantheon that Tolkien created. But he never really lives to his full potential in the books, and that's kind of a very underestimated story throughout. He's always this figure who goes around and advises, but he's derided by Saruman the White. He's smoking weed with the hobbits. What are you doing?
Yeah, but that's what Sauron. Is it Saruman? He sort of looked not down on him, but he always used to say you were always off with them. But he loved humanity really more than anything, and that's where he probably held him back maybe.
And that was his weakness and his strength ultimately. It's why Saruman becomes Saruman of many colours, and then Gandalf becomes preeminent, Gandalf the White. But it always brings a tear to my eye when it's the final scene in the films where Frodo is going off and Gandalf's finally be given passage back to the forever realms where the elves live, and just the notion of he's finally leaving, he finally gets to rest
after 5,000 years, and I'm sure he's 5,000 years old at that point.
Easily, and he's just a great.
He is cool. He is cool. He's definitely cool. So, I mean, that scene with the Balrog in the first film is just amazing. I remember going into Games Workshop as a kid, and I asked this guy for a Lord of the Rings figure, and I asked him about Gandalf, and the guy in the middle of the shop, we all know they're very, very sort of geeky in the shop. Yeah. And
just
he sort
a
of
bit.
Oh, Gandalf, the one that goes, you shut in this middle of this shop, and I'm just standing there all embarrassed, oh my god. And my dad sort of looked at me and was like...
It just alerted the entire shop that you were there.
I was there.
And the thing is as you get older with Gandalf, it's just there's loads of things that you kind of first glance that you don't really think about. So, for example, when he says, fly you fools, it's on first watching you think, it just means run away. And actually what he's saying is, go to the eagles. You idiots.
Yeah.
Everybody, that's the biggest criticism. Why don't they just fly the eagles? That's what he's saying, fly you fools, we should have flown all along.
I didn't think of it like that,
And
I just thought he meant...
And funnily enough, neither did the other characters, and that's why they spent another 2 films walking.
Yeah.
And then the thing that... I mean, the links with the Tolkien's genius is he kind of weaves in Old English myth and Norse myth. And
well, it's the Two Towers, isn't it?
It's one in...
it's our home city,
Birmingham, But what's the one tower, isn't it? The water tower?
Yeah, the water tower.
Edgbaston Reservoir.
The BT Tower.
Water tower,
And then,
the BT Tower.
Is it the BT? It might be. No, that wasn't around.
No. One of them's definitely near Edgbaston
Reservoir Tower.
But what I was going to say is that Gandalf, his figure and the way he looks and the sketches is actually Odin. Odin's name is the sort of the stranger, and in all the texts, he wears a big hat, a stovepipe hat. Is that what you call it?
Well, that's what
a cloak.
If you look into Viking lore, that's what Odin does. He goes into the towns, doesn't he? And sometimes he sleeps with some of the women, and he's the wandering stranger, isn't he, Odin? Yeah.
So it's definitely drawing on that. Gandalf's less sleepy with people.
He's less James Bond.
He's not sneaking into some hobbitesses chambers of a night.
Well, no, hold on. I'm sure he has chemistry with.
That's for the film, I think.
Oh, really? Does he not in the book
I don't
have
know.
chemistry with the Lady of the Forest?
Oh, God, Galadriel. Yeah,
there is some
that's
history
a weird
there.
vibe that in the film.
I'm sure, when he was 100, when he first landed, and she was a young teenager or something, and they sort of got it on or something.
Would you like to film my stuff?
And then he got really old, and she just sort of stayed. Well, she's an elf, isn't she? So
where are we going?
Where are we going?
We're getting into fan fiction here. You guys can see it on my blog later.
So, Harry, go on. You're next.
Oh man, there's so many. I think talking about greatest male characters, I think it'd be wrong for us to not mention this one, Walter White.
Yeah.
By a long way, because if you go from where he starts, this really relatable but weak old chap who has nothing real that incredible about him, to where he is by the middle of the 6 seasons, where he's this badass kind of Heisenberg chap, and then by the end, where he takes that power and almost reverses it back to making all these mistakes and going too far in that opposite direction, which ultimately causes his demise. Just that entire character arc from season 1 to midway through is like a film. You see a character go from rubbish to great, but then that series, what it does, it takes it even further to show his downfall as well, which is something you very rarely get nowadays. And I just
honourable mention.
Yeah, because so for me, a great character is a combination of good writing and perfect casting. It's not the actual character that's good. Any actor and writer can make any character good, and Walter White is almost that one of the shining examples of perfect casting, perfect writing to make one of the best characters in TV. But don't want to link on him too much because he's not my ultimate favourite.
Go on then.
Oh, my ultimate favourite TV character is Rimmer from Red Dwarf because Rimmer,
Which one's Rimmer?
What?
the dickhead, the one with the H on his head.
Oh, the hologram.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I haven't seen Red Dwarf in a long time.
Right? Because there is nothing likeable about... You know how I like characters who are flawed? There is nothing likeable about Rimmer at all.
He is funny. They're all great though. That series is just so good.
No, to be fair, I don't think any of them are likable. I think that's the whole point. Is that they're none of them are redeemable.
Even the robot who does nothing wrong is still not a likable person because he's just like too nice and too...
Rimmer's that dislikable that a planet made entirely of Rimmer imprisoned him.
Yep.
Because he is that dislikable.
Yeah, he's one of those people that I would happily watch on TV for 6, 7, 8 seasons. But if I met him in real life, I'd never want to go anywhere near him. Maybe like, what a knob that guy was, and never speak to him. But I could happily watch him on TV from a safe distance for 6 years.
So does he? I mean, I have watched a lot of Red Dwarf, but does he ever find anyone else?
What do you mean? Does it?
Another human?
Do the crew ever find another?
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you know who Rimmer is?
Yeah.
Is it a hologram?
Okay, just because you
Yeah, they come across. So
Yeah, but it's like set millions of years into the future, isn't
Yeah,
it?
no, they come
The
up-
whole point of it is to hunt. They're trying to find
Yeah, they go-
humans. I can't remember. It's been years since I watched it.
Yeah, no, they come across. So they come across different versions of themselves.
Ah, right.
They come
okay.
across from themselves from different timelines.
But no one else. No.
Yeah, no, they come across. There's the replicants. They're like a rip off of the Borg. There's that great scene where they.
But they're not humans, are they?
No, they're like half human, half robot. Because there's that great scene where they put Crichton's eyeballs on their chin and film themselves upside down.
Do you know, it's years. I used to watch that and The League of Gentlemen
Blimey.
on the weekend. That was a wrong show, that was. But anyway, yeah. So, Rimmer from Red Dwarf. Okay. So, you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've gone to mine. So he's a creator, basically, who created the Metal Gear Solid series for me. So it's Hideo Kojima.
But he's a real person.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Not a main character.
Character. Oh, no, let me finish. Okay. But he goes on to create, like, Solid Snake and the boss, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is... They're not the same character. They're obviously father and son. But it's just that whole overarching... You know, they're some of my favourite games of all time. I think just from the art style to the story to all the weird characters throughout the years. I mean, you've got, you know, Sniper Wolf from the first Metal Gear Solid, you know, like, and then you've got all the way up to Psycho Mantis to... Oh, they just go on. I think the series is just phenomenal. There's 5 games now, I think. And then you've got all the SNES games.
And there's all the side add-ons. But there was also Raiden.
Yeah, but he's not one of my favourites.
Oh, so you like... So your contribution is all of that except for Raiden.
No. I'm just saying that those two are the main characters of the series, basically.
Raiden.
No.
So your male characters are those two characters, not the
So,
creator.
so your male character is a series of games.
Solid Snake is his character.
Or is it Solid Snake?
Yeah.
Solid Snake.
Right.
Yeah.
Solid Snake.
I'd
It's
say,
not-
and that's why I'm saying Big Boss falls into that category because he is kind of.
So all of the different versions of Snake,
yeah, basically.
because
Yeah.
there are about 8.
Well, no, there's not.
I don't know. I don't
Well,
play.
There's
then
not.
because
There's just Solid Snake, and that's it. And
Well,
then
there's Big Boss,
Yeah, that's his
and then there's
father.
Solid Snake,
Yeah, that's his
and
son.
then there's and then in Metal Gear 5 there's Wibbly Snake. What's his
He's not Snake.
Venom Snake.
We're just going way off tangent here. He's not. He's not Snake at all. He's not even a Big Boss. He's one of the medics that
Right.
was made to be.
But he's not Snake.
No. You haven't completed it, have you?
Go on.
Have you completed it?
No.
I'm going to spoil it for you now.
Go for it. I already know the
Right.
end. I already know the
So,
end.
do you know the end? Yeah, so it's not actually a Big Boss.
No, it's the guy you
It's-
play as at the very beginning.
It's a medic basically. He was one of his closest friends who was, and they made him look like Big Boss.
Yeah.
And gave him psychotherapy, but yet strange sort of like. But that's what it comes back to Hideo Kojima because he created it, and he's just vision of the characters. Just for me, they are grounded characters, and they're conflicted all the time because ultimately Solid Snake's a clone, and he knows what he is, but at the same, and then it kills him in the end because his cells they just wear away too quick. And then Big Boss is obviously like someone that's been fighting constantly with the enemy all his life, and he's over 100 years old by the time he dies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think for me that whole if you know the story of Metal Gear, it is nuts.
If you can follow it.
Yeah.
Because like
it's emotional at times. It's
Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. That's the one. That's the prequel one.
Yeah. So that's
the most consistently together one I can remember, because I remember following that story start to finish and understanding it 100%.
Yeah. That's like a Cold War love story. That is.
It's a great game.
With like your action and.
I think that's my problem with Metal Gear Solid, and that's why I've never really played it, is because I feel like I'm late to the party.
Yeah.
There is like 12 deep. I know Solid Snake from Smash Bros.
Yeah.
To be fair,
Shout out to Smash Bros.
I played one, but I didn't play one until after I played 2.
Yeah.
It was just, I came in at 2, and then I went back and played 1, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. There is side games, but it's predominantly 5 games.
The first and second one, I like that they were really inventive with the, like, Psycho Mantis had that whole thing where to beat him, you had to
take your controller out
get
of port 1 and plug it into port 2.
Player 2, and then
that's how you had to beat him.
Did you not know about this?
No, never played. That's one of the most amazing things.
You don't have to know. I don't have to have played it to know this.
I know like what some of the cult stuff around it, so I know. Yeah, beating that. I know the box.
Yeah,
I know that.
There was a thing in the box.
That noise.
There was a thing in the box. To solve a puzzle, you had to read the back of. There was like a those they talk on the radio. There's a frequency.
Yeah.
You have to tune into. And to get it, it's on the back of the case. It's a picture on the back of the case.
But it's like a picture, like, you look at the case and go, oh, there's some sort of calling going on. But that frequency code was a code that you had to ring in the game. And there was loads of little things like that. I remember when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, and it was on the PlayStation 3, and it was when the Blu-ray discs were first being introduced on the PlayStation 3. And HAL Icon in it says, we have to change disc like you had to do in Metal Gear Solid 1. And he goes, no, it's Blu-ray now. Like, so they're kind of breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it reminds you of how it's such a clever series.
The second one had like halfway through you're doing a fight, and then all of a sudden the game over death screen would pop up. Mm-hmm. But in the game over death screen, when you died in the second one, the top corner of it was still like the screen you were playing on, and it would show you just dead. But at this point, the fight's still going on, telling you failed, and it's like, do I stop? Do I carry on? What's going on here? It's really clever the way they just kind of broke the fourth wall for the sake of interesting different game mechanics.
But yeah, I think Solid Snake's just a great character, and again, I like grounded characters. One more I will mention as well, because I do like sort of conflicted characters. I like. If anyone's seen Tom Hardy's Taboo?
No.
It's set, I think, in the early 1800s or the mid 1800s, and that I still don't even know what sort of character he's going to become, but he's such a good series where he plays like this sort of, again, he's got so much history. He's done horrible things, like he was involved in killing by orders on his ship, like loads of slaves on this ship. He was told to nail down shut the hold where all the slaves were, and obviously ultimately that ship went down, and that constantly haunts him. But at the same time, he's like a tough character. You wouldn't think that anything would sort of get to him, but obviously there is undermining things, and then he goes off to Africa, and then something happens to him there, and then he comes back. You've got to watch that, guys. It's really, really good.
I'll rattle off a couple of honourable mentions, and I'm going to group them together.
Yeah.
So I picked a hero. I noticed you guys picked anti-heroes, I supposed to pick. So I'll group 3 anti-heroes together. I think you got to have Michael Corleone.
Yeah.
Godfather. I mean, it is stunning those 3 films and his development through that, particularly in 2.
Yeah.
I think you got to have. I'd be remiss in not mentioning Patrick Bateman.
Oh yeah, in Psycho.
American Psycho.
Yeah.
I mean, what a character.
Can I just say something to you there? I've read a theory about that film that he's not actually killing anyone.
Yep.
It's just all in his head.
Yep.
Have you heard about this theory, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely, because...
When I looked at that theory, I was like, that film just changed for me. I was like, wow. He's just an eccentric nut.
Well, that's the ambiguity in both the film and the book is you have no idea what's really true. And I mean, in the book, the film's fantastic. It is, again, funny we'll mention it later, but it's one of the films where I think it is as good as the book. It is, and if not, because it adapts to the art form, it adapts to the cinema of it, rather than trying to recreate something in the book. But the book it'll have a 100-page chapter or something.
Oh, this is American Psycho, by the way. We haven't actually mentioned what this is, but it's American Psycho,
Yeah, American. So the book will be like 100 pages of him talking about GQ or some fashion. He'll list off what people are wearing, and at the very end, he'll mention something psychotic like, "And then I slit a hooker's throat." Or like the favourite reference is he tries to put a cat into a cash machine. It's completely crazy, and again, part of its appeal is that you don't know whether it's true at all, whether any of it is true. But like,
doesn't the landlady say something to? Because apparently people he kills just disappear, don't they, or something like that.
Yeah. So
he creates a scene, and then it's not there, and then it's like. He's like, why? Doesn't he question himself?
Well, of course he questions himself at the very end. He confesses to his lawyer. He's like, I've killed all these people. I've done this. And his lawyer's just like, what are you talking about?
He's almost like, why has no one arrested me, kind of thing.
And I mean, that's part of the satire of yuppie culture, is that people are so vacuous and like interested in looks and superficial stuff that they don't know it's a madman running around the town killing people. And then probably in that final, completing the trio, I'd probably mention Tyler Durden and Fight Club.
Oh, you almost wrote him down,
So, you know,
that's a great
brilliantly
film.
portrayed by Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Again, the book as good as the film as good as the book, and in different ways.
See, I've not read those books. I really feel like I should do.
It's. I mean, because I read the book after the film, obviously know the twist, but equally as cleverly constructed in terms of laying the groundwork for the.
Because of who? I mean, I suppose we can spoil Fight Club because it's nearly 20 years old or something at this point.
It's bad,
it's really quite old. But
such a good film.
So the fact that he's this like is the imagination of the narrator that makes him such a better character, because he's how the narrator wants to see himself. So he's almost like this perfectly constructed version of like how people want to be and what is cool and how people want to be, and that makes him a really good character, because when they wrote that character, they nailed it. That's how people want to be. That's how people see themselves. It's not a niche. It's like how.
I totally get. He is.
It's hard to explain what I'm trying to say.
Inverted commas, the perfect man.
Yeah.
He's obviously not.
He's the perfect man in the eyes of other men.
Yeah. Yes. Of the insecure man.
Yeah.
I mean, when you watch it when you're 15 years old and you see Brad Pitt shredded to death in the physical peak of his life. He's got the coolest haircut.
But it's almost as though
Jesus.
That's what he would like to see himself.
Yeah,
I mean, and there's a vein of it like there's a moment in every man's life where you're like, I want to be a little bit like Tyler Durden.
Yeah.
I want to wear those outrageous clothes. I want to wear a sort of like a tie-dye vest with like bright red trousers and run around like taking on corporate institutions. I mean, that, and I suppose that's why you could argue he's the perfect male character in some sense.
Yes.
Obviously, he's the most imperfect one, because all of his strengths are all of our weaknesses as men, like machismo. You know, it's all about vanity and superficialness. The real hero is, of course, the narrator, who has no fucking identity.
That's it.
Yeah, he's just an everyday nobody who,
And it's funny that like he's almost a hero in that book. He's seen as a hero, and like. But
what did they blow up in the end of that film? Now is it banks?
So they blow up financial headquarters and across all of America. So they reduce all the credit and debit to zero,
because they talk. Brad Pitt talks about that in the. Well, you probably read it as well in the book, but he mentions that to him right early on, doesn't he?
But it's
what if we could just get rid of it all? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, but it's an incredibly dangerous book because of it. I think it captured the way that I think 21st century men are feeling in some ways better than any other text. And lots of people dismiss it as sort of infantile and it's just Fight Club because it's so cliche now. But the physicality of it, of wanting to express your physicality, of wanting to strike back against these big nameless corporations, I mean, dangerous at the same time. But
when that film came out when I was in about year 9 or year 10 maybe. And I remember a lot of guys at my school, they didn't take from the film that kind of message. They took underground fighting is cool.
Yeah.
So every Wednesday they'd meet up in a car park and have Fight Club, and I was like, all right, okay.
But they didn't look at the true message of that. It wasn't just about fighting. It was
Probably
just
not
about
even. They probably weren't even old enough to understand it.
That's why it was probably an 18.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem. The same with American Psycho. Its biggest critics and some of its biggest supporters don't get it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is that again with American Psycho, people don't get the irony of it. They don't get the irony of Patrick Bateman. Of course, nobody's calling him a hero. Nobody thinks he's but he's a very well crafted. He's a device.
Yeah.
Tyler Durden's a device to show you what's wrong with men, not what's right with men.
Yes.
But,
and what we're going to talk about, the V for Vendetta as well, is another example of that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get onto that in a minute.
Yeah.
I just want to make one final mention to one of my favourite films, Last Character. Rick Deckard from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Of course you would.
Go on. I was going to choose him first. Yeah, I was going to choose him first, but again, that is a film where...
I want to get into this with you. Go on.
Yeah, well, we can't get into too much because we've got to move on. But
Right.
I just wanted to sort of mention that, again, another conflicted character where he has to basically kill. Fireworks are going off in the background.
Fittingly.
Yeah. So he ends up. You don't actually know whether he is ever a replicant because there's always that sort of is he or is he not. There's certain things in different cuts of the film.
True.
But essentially, he ends up having to kill his own kind if he is a replicant. But at the same time, it really, really, really grates on him. What he has to do.
See, you're all being really deep, and then my next character was really, really childish.
It doesn't matter. The Joker's a fantastic pick.
No, well, Joker was obviously the first one. It was Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, but he's a great character.
He's not childish.
Yeah, well, Vegeta's not childish.
Put a case for Vegeta, go on.
Well, Vegeta starts off as a villain. Harry hasn't watched Dragon Ball Z, so he probably doesn't know anything. But Vegeta starts off as the bad guy, and he's kind of got the Wolverine-esque persona. Like he's the short, tiny guy that takes on bigger foes, and he stopped playing bingo.
How did you know I was playing John Bingo?
Because it's fucking obvious. He then becomes this good guy because he actually gets the crap beat out of him by the good guy and slowly becomes a hero as he transforms in the series. Now in the most recent series where he's actually fighting alongside the hero, but he's still in competition with the hero, which I think the Boo saga which was the last saga of Dragon Ball Z before it's come back, he took the opportunity to get a power boost to beat him, and he only just beat him.
Yeah, I think that's Vegeta's greatest selling point as a male character, is that his transformation isn't perfect. It doesn't. He reluctantly stays on Earth to train to try and beat Goku. Even when the Frieza saga, he kills a bunch of people, man. Like Vegeta goes and just nails people. Like I watched it the other day, just clips of Vegeta just zapping people as he's flying around Namek. And then, as you say, like when in the greatest danger to the Earth, which is this Boo saga, and this figure, this mysterious Boo's coming back, Vegeta lets everyone down. Because he indulges his worst aspects, his greed, his desire for power. He kills, blows half a stand-up, doesn't he?
But basically, when he says, don't do it, Vegeta, he just looks at him, holds his hand up, smiles, and blasts the arena. And imagine it's like Wembley. So he blasts half of Wembley up and just has this smirking grin as he tilts his head and goes, like Stewie in Family Guy when he's psychotic, and he goes, what you going to do about it? And then the thing with Dragon Ball is, even though it's probably like a 5-minute fight, it's 17 episodes.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so it was like 10 or 5 episodes of just Vegeta and Goku fighting. And then once he's done with Goku, he then takes on the big bad.
Yeah, but isn't the tournament...
And then sacrifices himself to save the world.
The Tournament of the Universe is the latest one.
The Tournament of Power, which
like
is great.
40-minute...
It was a 45-minute battle, and it lasted 30 episodes. So I think someone did it in real time. Someone's made a YouTube video where they've done it in real time, because obviously things are happening all over the place. So say one episode is what's happening on this side of the arena, and this is... So it's all happening at the same time, and someone's tried to mash it all together.
And it's
how did spectators know what the hell was going on.
Well, they're just gods, so they can probably perceive it all.
I think with going back to Vegeta though as well, I think I'd argue that Vegeta is the reason that Dragon Ball Z is as popular as it is.
He is everyone's favourite character.
Because Goku is like the central character, but there's kind of an idea that I think it's Peggy Sue. It's a bit like Ray.
Squeaky clean.
Where he's squeaky clean and he always can do it. You always know that he's going to win in the end, Goku's going to win in the end. He just always is. There's been a couple of occasions where they've kind of backed that round, Gohan takes on Cell, etc. But essentially, it's Goku's going to come and deliver the goods. We like Vegeta because he's going to lose. Vegeta's going to lose, but he's going to lose in such spectacular
fashion. He goes all out and he pushes himself to that point where he's like, he is funny.
And it's just, that's it, for every wrong he's done something equally as good.
But he also is the prince of Super Saiyan, so he feels like he's entitled to the crown, which ultimately he never really gets.
And what I like about him, sorry to change the topic, but what I like about Vegeta in that vein of princes, he reminds me of Namor from Marvel.
Oh yeah,
Imperious Rex. It's that sort of outrageous masculinity of like, I am the boss.
I get my ass kicked every time.
I am gonna do it, and then like when you see him crumble a little bit, you're like, but like it's that sort of machismo, sort of come at me, I'm the best.
So we're gonna have to move on. We've been talking about this for a little bit over, but
well, we don't have many games to talk about.
Yeah, that's why I let it run over slightly. So, great choices, lads. We're going to have to move on to the next topic, which is, what are we playing? Harry, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I've been playing this mobile game, which is absolutely fantastic. And it's called Her Story. It's quite old, actually.
Okay.
And this game it's mostly story driven, hence the name Her Story. And the entire game is made up of like 30-second, 40-second clips of this woman being interviewed by the police. So it's just the camera on her and her answering these questions.
Is this iOS?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the game is you're a policewoman and you're sat at a computer and you can only see her screen and you've got this search engine and you've got to search keywords to find videos you've not seen yet and then watch these videos to find more keywords to search your way through to try and work out, like, her husband was murdered, which is why she's called in by the police. And she tells a story about how she found the body, about the history of the family, how, they met, what her parents were like, what the house was like. And you follow these interview tapes through to try and work out what actually happened.
Is it like a murder mystery sort of?
Yeah, it's a bit of a murder mystery trying to work out how...
How much is this then on iOS?
I don't know, it's a couple of quid.
Okay.
You're not paying like a tenner for it, it's like £3.99. I finished it in maybe 2 evenings, but did play it for quite a bit. It was very, very good. By the end of it, it all kind of comes together. But there's no linear story. It's as you discover bits of story, and you can tell by the way she's dressed what day she filmed things on different days, and it doesn't outright tell you what actually happened. It leaves it for you to piece together the story yourself, and it's very, very fascinating. Well, my interpretation of it might be different to someone else's, but I absolutely thought it was very fascinating, and it took up 2 evenings of my week.
Good story.
Well, yes, the story is what you make of it. So once you've had enough information to put it all together, the game will then end, and then it gives you a bit more of a twist. And it tells you when you finish the game. But the order you get those clips in, the order you follow the story and piece everything together is different for everyone, just based on what you search. Very, very fascinating. It's very different to it's not Candy Crush or anything where you're just wasting time clicking on things. It's very good, very enjoyable.
A bit more cerebral.
Yes, and it was short as well. It wasn't like this because it was quite a repetitive process. It was short and very sweet and very good.
Okay. John?
Yeah, you Red Dead. But I have been. I did try. So I don't own a Switch, but I did try Mario Party. Well, Super Mario Party. Mm-hmm. So much fun.
Is that the new
one? It kind of goes back to an older version of Mario Party.
Is it Mario Party 8? Because
which one was Mario Party 8?
The good one. Mario Party 8.
There's one where you have the board, and you go around the board.
That's all Mario Party.
Yeah, but no. Well, the last one was.
The last one had that Bowser chasing you in the car.
So it was going back to the other one where you roll a dice, you go to a board, and you then have mini games after each 4 players.
Mario Party 8.
Mario Party 8.
Yeah.
And the mini games I've played are fun. They're all really fun. But then they've got different games in there as well. So you've got your standard Mario Party, who can get the most stars and coins. But then there's a rhythm one, but it's games based on rhythm movement.
Yeah.
And that was like 3 rounds when we played that. And then there was another one where it was just mini games. And then there's a raft one where you have to do different routes, but as you're doing the different routes to get more time, because you have to collect the mini games to get more time to get to the end, you can have different routes. And every time you do these levels, the different routes and that, you collect. Essentially, the end game is there's a star with different coloured gems on each of the star points, and it's a gold star, and you've got to get different colours which look very familiar to an Infinity Gauntlet. So basically, you're collecting the Mario Infinity Stones to unlock more stuff in the game. But it was fun. It was a good night of playing.
That's what they are, aren't they, really? Mario Parties. Get together with the lads or the girls, and then we all have a drink.
Does it still have the soda can minigame? Quite possibly the greatest minigame in the history of minigames in any game.
I didn't come across it, but it has a game that's very, very similar to it, which is you've got to climb a pole. And as you climb the pole, you're doing this.
Oh, so a slower version. Because the soda can
slower version. Well, no, as quick as you could do it, kind of thing.
It was get the Wii remote and treat it like a can of Coke and shake it as hard as you can. Shake it as hard as you can.
Obviously looks.
Only blokes win that one.
You haven't met the right women, mate.
So I've been playing Machinarium. I don't know. That was a good joke, Ben. Don't be sorry. So
I'm just apologising to my mother.
So I've been playing Machinarium. It's a point-and-click adventure game on iOS. It's coming to Nintendo Switch, I think, in 2019. So they tell us on their Twitter.
How much is it?
I think it was about. Was it about £1.99?
Sold.
Yeah, it's the artwork of this game is gorgeous. It is just a beautiful, all hand drawn, which I love. And it's basically just like this dystopian future of a world of robots. And this,
what was the name again?
Machinarium. And you have to you escape, and you're basically helping out all these different citizens of this robot world, basically. But it's just it's not. It's by this is what I was looking for earlier. Is it? Amanita Design, they're the developers, and they've got a few games.
What type of game is it?
It's just a point and click puzzle game. So you sort of you're on the screen, and you point to the right, and you walk to the right. And you can
Monkey Island style.
You
can click on the bed, and you'll say something about the bed, even if it's got no relevance.
Even more sold.
And then you pick a box, and then the box will open, and there's a nut in there that you have to put onto this. Over the other side, and it is really, it's the graphics. Just look the graphics. It's all hand drawn. So that's all I've been really playing, other than Red Dead, which we're going to talk more in depth next week when we talk full story spoilers. Go on, Ben.
I want to throw a wild card out there. It's a board game.
Yeah.
I thought I'd give it a mention. Unearth. We've been playing it not for a few weeks ago now, probably.
What's that then?
So it's like set in sort of maybe even a post-apocalyptic world. I want to say like where we've gone back to the Stone Age, and you sort of a civilization's trying to mine for resources. It's a dice game with it's got each person has their own dice, and you roll to kind of assign yourselves to different locations that you set out at the beginning. It's a wonderfully drawn. The artwork is stunning.
Yes, I love stuff like that.
It's got like a variety of card sizes as well, and this just sounds like a silly thing to do, but when you start playing with a standard playing deck all the time for like Catan or poker or anything like that, it has like tarot card size. It has very small half pack size. It has the standard size. It's very competitive to the end, so there's no passengers in the game. Occasionally in Catan you can become a passenger and not like it and then storm out the room.
Right, no, there's a difference between not liking it and storming out the room. I'm just not lucky at Catan. I roll the dice, and every time I roll the dice I don't get materials.
Well, that's the one flaw of this game. It is very dice based. It's
very random luck based.
It's got a big element of chance, but I think that's useful because when you play, you've got a group of people. There's always going to be people who know the game really well and people who are less well, and so the element of chance reduces that sort of
unless
inbuilt.
you're me.
Unless
you're always on the crap end.
But it's definitely worth. I think it was.
You can buy this
between
off Amazon.
Between £15 and £20. I think it is.
Not
So
bad.
very, very reasonable.
It's a 4-player game. It's why I've not brought it round to play too much because
There's always normally more than 4 of us.
there's normally 4 of us. Like we were going to play Jurassic Park Danger the weekend, but I fell asleep.
Yeah, I definitely worth a buy if you're into board games.
Cool. Okay. Obviously, a lot of us have been playing Red Dead, but we're not going to go too much into that, as we spoke about it last week. And again, we're going to talk story spoilers next week. But yeah, let's move on to our main topic, our film discussion. Last week was my choice of film, and I chose V for Vendetta, fitting as it's bonfire night as we record this. So, what's everyone's thoughts and impressions?
So, when we talk about this film, when you mentioned this last week, you went, we're going to watch V for Vendetta, and John went, yes! Right? I enjoyed the film, but I'm certainly not on this hype jerk-off train you guys
Have you
are
never
on.
seen it before?
I've seen it before.
Oh, right, okay.
But, like, the sheer woo about it, I don't get. So you're going to have to sell me on it.
Right, well,
But it doesn't, because I have bad points about this film, but I enjoyed it, but I don't understand the woo.
I am eager to hear these because I would say we're going to have a good chat here because I would say without doubt I think the graphic novel and the film are probably two of the I think together are one of the most important pieces of artwork from the 20th century. Without a doubt. I genuinely think they are seismic. I think it will stand the test of time and it will stand alongside 1984. It will stand along Margaret Atwood's.
I need to read 1984. A friend of mine at work raves on about that, and I need to read it.
Well, it's in the same vein. It is. It's going to be a towering figure, and it will definitely sum up the age. I think not only because of its inherent merits as a story and a film, but I think because of its cultural impact. But maybe that's. Did you watch it beforehand? Or
I've seen it a couple of times. Yeah.
Okay. So talk us through the. Yeah. Well, I'll start first. I'll give you my thoughts and impressions. Then we'll go around, and then obviously I want to get your take on it. Then and then because it's after what you just said there. But I think when I first watched this film, I think this came out in 2004. Am I right? I think it did.
2005.
Ah, right. So I was 15. So at that time, I wasn't as sort of open-minded as I probably am now.
Correct.
So when I sort of watched that film, I was really more interested in the action.
The action sequences.
For me at the time.
Yeah.
And then obviously as I went on and I started to, as I got older, I started to consume the world around me. I started to see why a lot of the messages of the film were really relevant and they really did hit home. Ultimately it's about toppling an oppressive government, isn't it, really? And just fulfilling what Guy Fawkes never got to do. All those years back, on the famous bonfire night. But yeah, I think I do. At the time, Natalie Portman's, I thought her performance was fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, I liked
serious?
her. Yeah, I really liked her. Yeah.
That is the worst British accent I have ever heard.
I don't care about that. I think for me, it's just her journey and what he does to her to get her to see.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Because it's almost like we all need to open our eyes sometimes to what's going on.
I agree with that. I think
that's what this film sort of says. I mean, it's not. I don't look at the world and think, oh God, you know what I mean? There's some fantastic things going on, but I think this film just really does hit home with that. And I think the character V, I think just what's happened to him, and then like his whole room, his whole setup, like he's got like the music on, and he's just
the shadow theatre. Or the shadow
it is just him, and I just think I think the film's brilliant. I don't see this government that we actually are in ever becoming like that, because that's just like a Nazi version of what, you know what I mean.
As far as the graphic novel was written about Margaret Thatcher's government at the time, and then the movie was made to more mimic the Bush presidency. So I think it doesn't relate to our British government at the moment.
I personally don't ever see that happening in any government. It could happen. I mean,
North Korea.
But
literally...
I'm on about over here.
Over here.
Obviously, where it was set was in London. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. It could happen. Hopefully not. But yeah, I just feel like it is a great. And the graphic novel as well. I haven't read it for years. I've got it in the other room. yeah, it's a really cool book.
Go on, John, your hot take.
Well, I just love the film down to the art of it being shot. The action scenes are great, and obviously, I was 18 when it came out, so probably not the most political now, but it was just the fear of this is how people used to be treated as well. So it was
in Germany.
Germany, obviously, people taking gays out into the street and all that, and it's just, and what the film kind of shows at the end, and it gets to the end of the film, is that the people still have the power. So that leader had no impact on the outcome. It was just him having that leader guy. Was it John Hurt?
Well, no, he did have an
impact.
John Hurt. He did have an impact, but V told the people how to get back at that base.
Well, it just essentially did come down to them being some good people, because the army could have literally decimated, but they weren't going to shoot on civilians, even though they were all dressed up as V. But he had no impact on that, because essentially he could have pulled that lever of that train and then gone and got, what was the character's name? The John Hurt character?
The leader.
The leader. He could have gone and done that whole standoff in the subway tunnel anyway and still sent the bomb, so it would have still happened, because even though the police officer, because this leader was like, oh, high and mighty, nothing's going to get through under the subway, well, the train stations, because he was right, and he just didn't like the police officer, even though the police officer was right. It took like one person saying something, and it was just ignored. If they'd listened to that one voice, which goes to World War Z, which they had the 13th man in World War Z, and it was like, if all
Are you talking about the film?
The film as well,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, you read the book?
I haven't read the book, but in the film they have this whole concept that it was like the 13th man, and if all 12 people in the room say yes, but the 10th man or something, and it's the 10th man's objective to say no, and then they go with the 10th man. So
I don't get that concept.
It was just so.
There should never be unanimity in something. There should always be a dissenting voice.
Always.
Yes, that's the principle of the 10th man.
Check.
Because if there's 10 people in the room and they think this is a bloody great idea, this is fantastic, it's the 10th man's job to say, this is why I don't think this is a good idea.
By default?
Yeah.
Even if he agrees with
it? Yeah, and that's a kind of a principle that many governments are built on. So like when people assemble their cabinets, that's why they have opponents in there or people with different beliefs. So that when they're sat round being like, this is a great idea, we should definitely introduce this.
In practice, there's got to be something they all agree on at some point.
Well, motherhood and apple pie.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Taxis. You know what I mean? Like,
whatever gets us money.
But, it's the grey areas, it's
Going back to
John,
that guy obviously said the subway, and then there was also the TV guy who reported the news, and he was like saying, what happens if he does blow up Parliament? And he's like, he won't be, but I can tell you, he will hand his resignation. This guy just thinks he cannot lose, and it just shows that the leader just doesn't think he can lose, which obviously kind of gives you the impression that essentially it's a dictatorship, which it doesn't work, because if you have one person in control, then it's going to fail.
Yeah, when he says, when they're like, oh, the way he's going to attack is by airborne gas, and there's one guy, who's the Finch cop, who's like, actually, he's going to use the train, and they just pretty much laugh him off. And we already know he's going to use the train, and it's just like, idiots.
Yeah, well,
Ben?
I've set it up on a pinnacle. I just think it's difficult to overstate how brilliant the text is, and then the film. I think I'll start with the
Do you think the film does the book justice?
I think, as I've said earlier, my favourite books inevitably are ones that are often really faithfully produced in a film form, but kind of recognise that the film is different to the text as an art form. So that's Fight Club recognises it has to do something different to the text. American Psycho does the same.
Visually, more than anything.
It's really it keeps all the crucial details that you'd like to see. So the artwork, so the sort of the feel of it, sort of key moments. But then it changes really, really key elements of it to make it a better film. So, for example, in the graphic novel, he blows up Parliament first, and then at the very end, he blows up the Old Bailey. But in the film, of course, it makes it's when you've got an editor, it's been sat on in your bookshelf for 30 years. It makes better to blow up the Old Bailey first and then blow up Parliament because of that iconic scene at the end of the film where the Houses of Parliament blow up gradually, floor by floor. So I think in terms of how it translates from film, and I mean the action sequences I think are needed within it. The brutality of V and his kind of violence. It's sort of saying, well, this is what Batman would really be like. Batman wouldn't be like using batarangs and be like, but like he'd be stabbing people and killing them and saying, well, if you work for this police force, you're all rotten.
It's if Batman wasn't a rich kid with nice parents. That's exactly who it would be. Yeah,
this is it, and I think again, it draws on so much. I think John's alluded to some of the fact there. I think it's going against what you're saying. So you think it would never happen here, and this book says it could.
Absolutely could.
It absolutely could.
Oh yeah,
and it shows you.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I just personally, I don't think we'll ever let it happen.
It would have
because of Germany.
It would have to be a completely perfect set of circumstances for something like that to happen. And that's what happens that's what happens.
They kill 80,000 people in that.
I think it's the preamble to this is what you've got to say is that England in the graphic novel and even in the film has gone under some sort of prolonged hardship.
Yeah,
so in the book, and they rephrase this, and there's an editor's note. It's a nuclear apocalypse has happened, but Britain's unscathed. And Alan Moore afterwards writes, well, on reflection, that wouldn't happen, we'd just all be gone. That's the reality of the situation, but he goes, needs must. In the film, again, adapts it well. It's some sort of famine or disease that struck the continent.
And America gets hit hard.
America gets hit hard, and so because of an island nation, and that's where the phrase England prevails comes in. But I think that's the problem, and what he's trying to show you here is the appeal of that far-right ideology in terms of the nationalism that it presents. England prevails, and we will go on and we will survive. And Norse Fire, which is the party, the Nazi equivalent for in this text, is it shows you like, look, this is how it happens. You get lazy, and that the speech that he delivers to the nation when he broadcasts, when he steals the broadcast. This is how it happens. You get lazy. You don't vote. You vote for security. And I think absolutely. I mean, we dismiss them, and I don't want to get overly political, but it's a political text. People like Nigel Farage, we think are the chipper chap who's going to have a couple of pints with us, but actually, some of the ideas that he represents, not wholly, are quite dangerous and could lead to somewhere like this. And so what I would really praise the text, and I think what Alan Moore is trying to get across in it and it's a vein through all his texts, is the usefulness of anarchy. And that's kind of anarchy with a capital A. It's this sort of political ideology of not having big government, of allowing chaos. It draws upon the ideas of a guy called Aleister Crowley, who sort of set this quasi-religious thing where it's a religious movement, Thelema it's called, and it's to do with an element of Satanism in it. It's not like as in devil worship, but like the individual is supreme, and what the individual can do. And it's a famous quote, he says it throughout both the text and the book: do what thou wilt. Do what you want. It's up to you. And he says it to Evie on a number of occasions: do what you want. That should be your liberty to do what you want.
So but something that in today's political climate isn't. It's been oppressed, isn't it? But not by the far right, but more by the left, isn't it? That's why how that book's kind of going on to how like Hitler happened and how we could go down that same road. Where at the moment it's on the opposite sort of side now. Well, it's kind of swinging the other way.
I think it's unfortunately we live in may you live in interesting times. I think it's both sides. I don't mean to be
definitely.
A curse, a sin on both your houses, a curse on both your houses, sort of thing. But ultimately, what happened? It's about tyranny. It's not necessarily about left and right. It's about tyranny and what tyranny looks like, and how anarchy is the antidote to that.
It is true that both sides can do because it's oppression of both
sides.
Maoism
and it's just as bad as Nazism. Because communism killed 100 million as opposed to
6 million.
Well, I mean
Jews.
That's the reality. I mean it's not a zero-sum game. They're both as despicable as one another. But that, I mean, Alan Moore, if you go away and read From Hell, which is another one of his books, which is about Jack the Ripper, it's all about this sense of...
Was that the Johnny Depp?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that,
not a great interpretation.
Not a great interpretation. Okay.
The book is stunning, really, really stunning. But I think the takeaway thing, I mean, I was probably a similar age to yourself, 15, and this really, really spoke to that sense of... futility that a lot of people feel about politics. It's like, no, the individual can make a difference. And all it takes is one good man to say no.
Yeah. No. Well, that's why everyone's saying in America, go out and vote. Or not just, regardless of who's in the chair, everyone should vote. Because personally, one of the greatest gifts someone has in Western society, or in most democratic, you've got that vote. People don't think that that's so powerful. And it's such a right to have. And yeah, like with this, you've got a voice and you can be heard, and yeah, definitely agree.
And then when it builds on, it not only takes that idea, which could be like stale, like a politics classroom. It then like the use of Guy Fawkes and the V for Vendetta and the poetic nature of it, and then the whole vaudeville stuff, and then he is this again. The system of beliefs that he believed in, this thelema, is this sort of biblical idea that...
It's a Robin Hood character as well, essentially.
Well, yeah, it's that idea of... the system of beliefs that I had is that this is what they believed, is that God was the aborted son of a goddess called Sophia, who was born into this universe and hated it because he was aborted, and then created Earth and humans to just torture them. And Sophia, who comes to say, no, you shouldn't do that, is the devil, is Satan. And what she's trying to do is liberate us through knowledge. And that's kind of the whole system, the basis of this. This is why V for Vendetta, in the book, when he takes off his hat, he's got horns, which is never alluded to in the film. I mean, that's the thing, is the film, it's too dense to get that in. Nobody wants to know that, really.
It's a good point, yeah.
Because the little bit of research I did about the book, because I've never read the book, but I did a bit of research before we came on to this. And that is so much heavily, it's a bit more controversial. It's got a lot more things like that. Like it alludes to the devil, which if you put that in the film, you're going to knock a lot of people.
Yeah.
Something I mentioned a bit is when this film released, it did knock a lot of people with some of the words it used. But none of that's in the book. Because it wouldn't translate into film because no one would watch it, and that's
there's always been that idea, hasn't there, that God is the bad, God is the actual evil entity here.
Yeah.
He cast Satan out because he was, you know what I mean? He loved humanity more than anything, and yeah, I know it's a film, but there's a famous painting in Batman vs Superman, isn't he, where he flips the painting upside down, and it's at first it's God, the angels, casting down Satan,
Luthor,
and then you turn the painting the other way, and it could be interpreted as the devil that casts God down. You know what I mean? Like the flip reverse.
Well, there's a famous book, that most lit students have to read. It's called Paradise Lost. Can't remember the name of the author's not off the top of my head now, but the whole idea of Paradise Lost is it's about Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, and it's this big long epic poem. But in that, you get the story of Satan. And effectively, Satan's like the hero, man.
Yeah.
He goes out into space. He fights with interdimensional beings. He struggles to get himself back to Earth, and he's on this quest to sort of liberate humans, as he sees it, from the tyranny of God, of this all-loving man. And because he starts in hell, and hell's not like, it's often depicted as like Satan loves to be in hell. It's what he loves. He hates it because hell's bad because it's the absence of God, and that's to all creations terrible. But so he draws on that idea of the satanic figure being the anti-hero, the real hero, the one that talks about knowledge and liberty and waking up. Evie, you must wake up, and that's why she's called Evie. Eve. It's that idea of Satan.
Yeah.
Bringing her out of her knowledge and feeding her through the tree of knowledge,
which she does ultimately wake up to.
Yeah.
Well, the whole torture scene is just knowing after your third or second view, it's like I was more watching the guy that kept bringing her into the room to see if there was any indication that you could spot that it was V before the grand reveal.
He was every single time you see him,
he's wearing gloves. Yeah.
There's a.
He's in a few of the scenes, isn't he?
He's in a few of the scenes.
He appears in the background, doesn't he? On one of them.
No, in the torture scene where Natalie Portman's character Evie's being tortured in the room and she's reading the toilet paper, the only person that she's interacting with in all those scenes is
him.
But he plays lots of different people. He puts on lots of different voices. But every single one of them is wearing gloves to hide his hands. Apart from when she's getting her head shaved, the person shaving her is wearing plastic gloves, but they're see-through, and you can see normal hands through them. Which I saw that, I was like, that little thing was so clever to me, and it just pulled me out that slight detail.
Yeah. But you were saying you've got some criticisms I'd like to hear.
So it's more to do with the film rather than the story, because the story is quite fantastic. I think the way the people, because it was first of all marketed as a Wachowski movie, which is the problem you had. You thought it was going to be an action movie.
Well, I was a kid at the time.
I watched the trailer for it. The trailer only has the action sequences and the explosions in, and there are only 2 fight scenes and 2 sets of explosions, and that's the trailer. So that's why this film didn't do so well money-wise to begin with, because everyone went to see what they thought was going to be a Matrix movie, and it was not. So not the right audience went to go and see this film.
That's why it's become a bit of a cult classic, though, isn't it?
It has. But the way, for a start, Natalie Portman's performance, I don't get it. It was the most mind-bogglingly terrible thing I've ever seen in my life. When she goes to the priest, dressed as the girl, and she starts asking for help, I thought it was part of the plan. The way she was acting this was like, ooh, I need help. Like, this is what's happening. And you knew it was what was about to happen. You knew they were working together. But Natalie Portman didn't portray any form of real, actual, genuine fear which she was supposed to be doing. She was supposed to be saying, help me, help me, help me. And she came across as in, ooh, help me, ha, 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 wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So when he goes burst in the room and she goes, I'm sorry, and buggers off, I'm like, oh, she was being serious. And she drove me insane with that British accent, and she didn't seem like she really cared. Like her
that's a bit Natalie Portman, though.
But isn't that her character at the beginning, though?
It's her character.
Like sort of blasé about things. Because she's not very sort of. She doesn't really see. Isn't that the whole point? Like, she doesn't really see.
Well, she's just getting.
She doesn't really see the message.
I think she's just getting on because obviously she's been drastically affected by this world with her brother, her mum, her dad, and then the Stephen Fry character symbolising her mum as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to him because he's great.
But she's just trying to stay hidden, essentially. So she's got this standard admin job. She's in this, and then she's trying to get further in life, but by doing the bare minimum. So she's going round to see this executive, but I don't understand why she broke curfew in the first place.
I was just about to say that. If she's going by life trying to hide, the very beginning of the movie, she goes out after curfew.
Yeah, but it's...
She's a lady of the night.
In the book, she is, isn't she? Yeah, in the book, she's a 16-year-old prostitute.
It's her first night out, and that's what she does. Her first night out, she gets called by the
But she was turned into just a general, I suppose, plain Jane, to make the transformation into what she becomes a bit more relatable for people.
Well, it's as you say, like it's that sort of, it's for the American market really. It's more than anything else. It's to try and sanitize it in a way. It's to try, because it's quite as you say, a challenging film as it is, which is why again it was in some quarters not well received.
Kate struggled.
Yeah, I think because it's that sense that they try to take out some of the more controversial elements so that people didn't have immediate objections. So you can't. Evie's supposed to be an every woman. I mean, that's like the whole idea is that you're supposed to identify with her.
There's nothing wrong with having that portrayal.
So,
but like, the concern for the producers would be, no, you can't have a whore as the main character. No, that would immediately alienate, half
Pretty
the
Woman did
audience.
it.
But it did, but it's not Pretty Woman, isn't it? It's not. It's an ugly
completely different genre of movie.
It's a wretched sort of experience for her. But I don't think it's a bad performance, but I think it's the weakest part of the film. Natalie Portman's performance.
My favourite part.
I just didn't have a problem with that. Sorry, I just didn't have a problem with that. I didn't let her performance get in the way of the message.
Considering her, the message I got. Yeah. But then I also knew it going in, which is maybe why this time round I struggled with.
I think back then, when this film came out, she she was around and she was in quite a lot of stuff, but she'd also done a very funny accent in the first Star Wars film, because that was about.
See, maybe I like.
She played Padme. Oh, how old was she?
No. The first film was Leon.
Yeah, I know, but
that's where I probably
the first
liked
time
her
that
from.
I started seeing Natalie Portman like as a mainstream actress was, I think, Phantom Menace, and she had that whole. She was trying to do a regal voice, and I didn't pick up on it. But when I watched it last night, I was like, is that her actual accent?
No.
I was like, that's really bad.
Yeah.
So I did pick on it, but it didn't take me out of the film. Because then you immediately get the action scene in the alley with the fingerman.
I think at that point with Natalie Portman, she was a reasonable box office sort of safe bet.
Yeah.
It was for the American market because it was a recognisable name that they knew, and she could carry the film because she would have had to because of promotion purposes. They needed someone who was a big star.
They needed a face.
They needed a face exactly.
They could put Hugo Weaving's face in it, could they?
No, exactly. So and then the rest of the characters, but that as you can see, she's clearly the odd casting out because the rest of the casting is a litany of British pedigree.
Yeah.
I mean,
Stephen Fry, John Hurt.
Yeah. John, if you were to make that now, and I think because there is a bit of a British Renaissance in Hollywood,
yes,
it would be a Carey Mulligan. It would be someone of equal stature.
Karen Gillan.
Yes. It would be someone British.
Yeah.
And recognisable in that sense, but Natalie Portman. I'm perhaps more forgiving of it because. I knew she was American, and I was like,
she didn't kill the film for me. I think Hugo Weaving's performance was great. I love it when he talks, when he speeches, it just captures you straight away.
Anytime that V is on the screen that's the parts I enjoy, and everything he does. Like I find the fight. I agree with everything you say on the last, anything that when the policeman wakes up on the day. And he wakes up, looks out the window and goes, today's your big day. Any point from there on is spot on.
Yeah.
Such a great ending. The build up to it all.
The dominoes and everything. Oh.
See, now, a lot of people criticise that dominoes bit because they felt it was a bit pointless. Like, why is he spending all that time setting up the dominoes?
I said this to Kate, exact thing. I went, well, that's a good way to spend 5 days coming up to the 5th of November.
Exactly.
Staying hidden.
He puts out the masks and then waits, and that's what he does to pass the time. He waits for anarchy to build itself. He didn't need to tell people to start causing havoc. He just gave them a tool to do it themselves.
But the whole acting of V, going back to the priest thing, where he comes in and then she goes, "Oh my God, he was telling the truth," and it was that little because obviously you see no emotion. It's the head turn, "You bitch," kind of thing, and then he goes and does what he needs to do with the priest, and then that whole thing in the room with the doctor, where I killed you.
10 minutes ago.
10 minutes ago. And it's that's the softer side of him, but he's still a thirst for vengeance overdoes.
He is not.
He's thirst for a vendetta.
He is not a good person. He
even admits that, yeah.
Yeah, so in the scene in the TV studio, when he puts all the masks and cloaks on all the people in there and tries to use it to escape, there's that fight scene where he cuts up all those policemen. And he's trying to do what he is doing for the people and doesn't ever once kind of take into consideration that those people might be trying to survive other ways, like having to take jobs as policemen.
Yeah, they're not always part of the system that is oppressing them.
Yeah,
they have to be for their jobs.
But he gets face to face with one of the really young policemen and just stabs him, and there's a shot of him face to face with this really young guy. And I'm thinking, that really young kid probably he might agree with you.
Some of the German soldiers, they weren't all deep down Nazis, do you know what I mean? They didn't want to be doing what they were doing, but at the time they just wanted to feed their family. And
he's famously when Mandela becomes president in the 90s, he talks about in apartheid. He says, no, we've got to talk to the people who participate in apartheid, all the generals and all the senior politicians, because anybody who participates in a corrupt system themselves aren't corrupt.
Yeah.
But to heal that corrupt system, we need to hear from those people. So he gave them pardons, carte blanche in the hearings, just come forward and say what bad things you did. V is not that guy.
No.
V is if you are participating in this system in whatever capacity, if you are just apathetic, you are as guilty in that system as it is, and he says that you are guilty.
Yeah.
Now I'm giving you a chance though to exonerate yourselves.
He says he's the mask, basically, because I think there's something he says. I'm no longer the face.
She wants to see the mask,
and
he's almost like, that's pointless because what you would see is not who I am.
Basically, they say he has no memory of who he was before when the experiment.
Because he was experimented on, wasn't he?
Experimented on, and he became basically he's a super soldier, sort of.
He's just a bit quicker, isn't he?
It's they tested it on something like 100 people, and then that's the doctors in the doctor's role in it is a bit more expanded upon in the book, and it's her diary. Finch, the policeman, reads her diary, and it goes through kind of her experiments on these undesirables, as they call them, and they get the last 5 down into those rooms. And all 3 died today, or 2's kind of gone into this psychotic rage, and it's 5 he's fine. And he has a job in the institution that they're in. He tends the garden and builds things, but because they don't underestimate that he builds explosives out of the fertilizer.
Yeah, see, that's a good nod.
And so it's like that's from the very beginning. They're like, all right, and the flowers, and because that's why he grows the flowers, the particular strain, and. The detective elements. I think the detective elements in the film are great. I think I can't remember the name of the guy.
The actor. I can't remember the name of the actor.
I think that he portrays that brilliantly, and considering that it's a much reduced part, in the book. I mean,
I think I'm going to go back and watch read the book.
The book. I mean, he becomes very nihilistic in the book. There's a sense that he's going to commit suicide, and he walks out of London at the very end.
Yeah, he goes. So in the film, he goes to that graveyard or that burnt out building, and then comes back and says, "I saw all this stuff. I saw the future." And I was like, "That's a bit weird." But then in the book, he goes and takes LSD, doesn't he?
Yeah, yes.
And he trips out, and that's what causes him to go, "Fuck this, I'm off."
Again, part of the sanitisation of it is like, no, LSD is not going to be allowed. And there's whole segments of in the kind of the entertainment where they go, the people that participate, a bit like Handmaid's Tale, where they go to Rachel's place. It's like Rachel's place. It's this sort of it's basically a strip club, this brothel, and it's the same in this. And there's Finch despises it, hates it, and there's lots of things that are much more expanded upon.
Well, they always are.
Naturally, yeah.
Okay.
I think. In terms, and I think it can't go unsaid the impact it's had culturally. In terms of, I mean, if you look at the last 13 years since its release, both me and you've got a mask. I think I'd a rough poll, you'd say a third of people probably our age.
It's
got
become
a mask like that.
It's the symbol of. It's become the symbol of the.
Almost 50% of the people in this room have a mask.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Me and Ben.
Yeah.
We're a very small segment.
You look at peaceful protests all over the world, and the majority of them are wearing that mask. And the media portray people wearing that mask as, they're horrible people. They're going out and they're causing trouble. When actually, they're not. It's become the face of Anonymous.
Yes, I mean, it goes without saying, Anonymous. I mean, they're mentioned less and less now. But I mean, it still has a huge impact and huge currency on certain aspects of the web, where and around certain cultures and subcultures on the web. And I think, and that image of a blowing of Parliament is will resonate forever. I think anybody who's watched it. But yeah, brilliant.
Great film.
Yeah.
So
I enjoyed it. But I'm not on the great bandwagon.
So, right, we're gonna move on and say that next week we'll be discussing John's film choice, which is let me get this right. It's Eric Radomski and Bruce W. Timm's Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
Released in 1993, starring Kevin Conroy as Batman.
Hey, the proper voice of Batman.
John,
the proper Joker.
Do you want to elaborate for the audience?
Well, it's most people. Well, me and Ben have, and actually, you said the weekend you've never watched the animated series of Batman, have you?
Nope.
No. So it's in the art style of the Ant-Man.
Grief.
Animated series, and it kind of takes. The characters are the animated series characters, but it's not
It's not canon.
It's not Well, it is canon,
No.
but it's just it's like a standalone TV movie.
Yeah, you don't have to watch the animated series.
Yeah, you don't have to watch the animated series to watch it. It would help because you know who the majority of the
who Batman is.
Well, yeah.
I might struggle
but
then.
it's Batman. There's a girl in his past that comes back. He's getting romantically involved with this girl, and all at the same time, there's someone going around killing mob bosses as a shadowy, hooded figure.
Nothing wrong with that, is it?
And they think it's Batman. So Batman's out to do his detective stuff to find out who it is, and the Joker stops by. But yeah, watch it. It's not a very long film. I think it's probably about an hour.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon Prime.
I'd say, I mean, people who like Heath Ledger's interpretation will dispute this, but I think it's the best presentation of the Joker in any form. It is
who plays
absolutely
Mark Hamill?
Mark Hamill, is it?
I mean, obviously it's listed next week, but there's a scene where he's in this sort of future land, and he's talking to a robot wife, and it's just funny. It's just utterly mad, and it's perfect the way it is. Yeah. And the ending scene, I still have this.
Yeah. So it's proper. Yeah.
Okay.
So, listeners, if you would like to be part of next week's discussion, please go away, consume this content, even if you have no interest.
Please go away.
And if you've seen it a million times,
to watch than Black Mirror, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and even if you've seen it a million times, give it a go, refresh your memory, and come back next week for next week's discussion. So, we're going to move on to the final segment, which is Guess the Character.
I'm not feeling good this week.
Well, Harry, you're 3-0 up.
I've got a buffer to play with.
John, you've got to come out swinging today, mate. Your brother's sitting next to you. Get some inspiration. I mean, he's going to be playing against you.
You don't like that.
So Ben, just a little quick one. You get 2 guesses per person. You're going to get 6 consecutive clues, and they're basically clues and characteristics of who this character could be, anything relatable. So, are we all ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good John. Okay. So the first clue is father.
John Marston.
No.
Damn it.
That's one clue, John. Oh, sorry, that's one guess.
One guess done. Just got to get in there.
Second is super. Muscles.
Mr. Incredible. No.
You're right, yeah.
Hair.
Is it Superman? Oh.
Power.
Is it Jor-El?
No.
No, you're
You can't.
Yeah. You can't shout anything. And the 6th clue is Saiyan.
Oh, Goku.
Yeah.
Boom! Sorry, Harry's never seen what now? Are you alright, John? Your face looks a bit broken.
I thought you were going to get that this week,
We're getting that early John Marston, aren't you?
I just thought, because we've been playing Red Dead, you'd be like...
Did you pick one that John might get to give him a chance, and I still got it?
No, listen, I'm not. I'll just. It's all.
I'd like to point out that in all the other games you played, I've only guessed once.
Right.
So I've never actually got to guess because you've always got it before me. So
Sorry.
Go straight in.
I thought you got that.
2 guesses this week, though.
Father, super, muscle. I thought you got it on muscles. Super Saiyan, muscles, hair, power, Saiyan, Goku.
Well, there's a lot of superheroes with muscles, so it's not really a great clue. And then when you said hair, I was thinking,
I got it.
Samson?
Well, the first 4 clues aren't going to be easy, are they? I'm not going to give you.
I thought it was Samson when you said hair.
I was about to say
biblical
Hercules for some reason. Yeah.
Samson. And then you get to the end and it's power, Saiyan. John, I can't make. You know, I'll make it really easy for you.
I thought they were tough clues.
They usually are. Yeah.
Okay.
4-0. Hey.
That's all we have time for today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Ben. We'll get you on again. When we have another film discussion at 2 o'clock. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Remember, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Join us next time for more Overthinking at Overthinking Media.